James and Ed, I am certain that over the past year there have been plenty of things that have come up, that have been added to your plate, that have occupied most of your time. I can only imagine the demands of someone in your position. Having taken over for a long tenured director myself, I can understand how challenging it was to take over for Melissa. But James and Ed, 1 year ago, when Melissa had barely passed over responsibilities to you, let's be honest, there was one thing to do, one single thing. Pick this year's speaker for the key coaches dinner. Now, this is not an insignificant responsibility. They have to be a key coach. They have to be able to speak, write a speech that meets the demands of these people. We hope that they're funny, so massive boredom does not set in during the speech. They have to be credible, and they have to have some type of message that will resonate and motivate a group of people whose combined coaching tenures bring us back to stone tablets and the first fires. And James and Ed, most importantly of all, the choice had to be well respected among their peers. Which begs the question that is on the mind of everyone in this room. In your first act as directors of the Barclay Forum for High Schools, why in the world did you choose me? Setting that aside for a moment, I do want to thank both of you. I want to thank Susan, Michael, Kara, and the entire team for entrusting me with this speech. The pleasure is all mine. The pleasure that I'm going to get having the opportunity to talk at several of these people in this room without them being able to talk back is the greatest joy of my life. Seriously, what you do, what you've built, developed, nurtured, fostered, and sustained here at Emory is not just commendable, it's not just respectable, it's civically responsible stewardship of a cause. That's not easy. That doesn't happen overnight. And we all know that it certainly takes a village. Any speech by me of this importance has to recognize me in one. The 22-year partner of mine who hates being called out in speeches and hates the limelight. All that is good in me is because of your friendship, your understanding, and your unrelenting support. All that is bad in me, I made up on my own. You are the most powerful yet unassuming woman I know. And I am grateful every single day that on April 21st, 1994, I went to Guitars and Cadillacs Country Bar to observe the free line dance lessons. You'll get it in a minute. Behind every great woman is probably a man half as talented, half as smart, and always in need of nurturing and development. And you know that's certainly me. If you don't know me, I want you to know me. I'm the grandson of French immigrants and Iowa farmers. I'm the son of a father who is a veteran and was a dairy worker of 40 years. And a mom who was a Mexican Native American orphan before being adopted by my grandparents and has a 40-plus year career in nursing. I went into education and my sister went into social work. I was raised to respect, honor, and cherish the relationships around me. I have no idea where my ego came from because my dad and mom are two of the three most humble humans on the earth, and I am married to the third one. My high school of 50 students per class had festival speech and gymnasium theater. So my introduction to competitive speech and debate was primarily organic through my professional choices as an educator. I thank Daryl Moon for launching my debate coaching career. Daryl, a student, lost 41 straight wrestling matches, and I got so tired of watching it, I went up to him and asked this brilliant senior who got a perfect score on the ACT if he would help me start the first debate team at A. Del DeSoto Minburn High School. I was introduced to the National Forensic League by Dave Houston, and if Greg Mirberg had not sat me down and told me and taught me what was possible if I left Ankeny and went to Iowa City West, I would not, could not possibly be the director of the NSDA. The arrival of our son Jaden changed my life, and forensics will forever be a day job, but fatherhood will be my life's pursuit. That's me. Enough about me. New key coaches. First, right off the bat, I must accomplish two things. One, congratulations to Dr. Moss, David, Jordana, Chris, and Nicole. I want to begin by congratulating you. All of the honor that you're receiving this weekend is very deserving. And I want you to feel really, really good about this accomplishment. Why? Because after my speech, when you realize that I and the individuals in this room are the ones that voted for you, it may not seem as cool. Second, I want to give you the first life lesson as a key coach. Listen very carefully. This is extremely important. If you skip a year, if you decide that there is something else more important in your life than the Barkley Forum for High Schools, now that you are a key coach, you dramatically increase the probability that you will get stuck giving this speech. It happened to me, so it can happen to you. Now I know what you're thinking. How hard can it be to give this speech? When James emailed me and contacted me last year, I kind of thought the same thing. Like, how hard can this really be? I mean, I give dozens of speeches a year in front of, lots of people. I've heard dozens of great oratories at this dinner. The formula seems pretty easy. Strong opening to grab the attention of everyone in the room. Appropriately compliment the parties responsible for the event. Give a little about yourself. Recognize the honorees. Make a couple of well-timed jokes about your peers. But be willing to live with the consequences of those jokes. See, in this speech, roasting is permitted, key coaches. It's accepted. Heck, it's demanded. But new keys, be aware. Making fun of these people can be very dangerous. Now, I'm not talking about the easy pickings like Ted Belch, Glenda Ferguson, or Ed Williams. It is completely acceptable to make fun of Ed Williams anytime you want. It will always be funny. It will always be funny. But the real sweet spot for humor is when you can use a close friend that you feel that you know really well deserves a joke. It's like your go-to person in a speech to always make fun of. For me, well, I'll be honest with you, for me that person's Greg Mouse. Most Scott One speeches, the good Scott One speeches, have a solid Greg Mouse joke. Now be careful. There are some in this audience that should not be touched. What's that, Nicole? Who, Scott? Well, Nicole, I'll give you the secret. Here's a couple of examples. In this room, you do not make fun of Byron Arthur or Melissa Wade. This is like making fun of a black Pope or a white Oprah. You just don't do it. But seriously, Byron, I didn't know either of you during my coaching career. I only knew of you. But I am grateful every single day that I know you now. Key coaches, if you are able to work in humor into your speech and get a couple laughs, there will come a point when a message is needed. This message is the meat of the speech, so to speak. It's the coup de grace. It's typically some well thought out message about the activity or our community that is interesting to this audience. Motivational in tone and includes a call to action. Easy, right? I started thinking about who would be here tonight, who would be in the audience, and how my experiences with all of you in the room might have shaped or could shape this message about the activity. So I started thinking about it. I thought about the times that Dan and Tracy and I have watched the Packers lose. I thought about times in Vegas with Tara Tate, or fine dining with Billy Tate, or hauling Mike Edmonds to the Banana Republic, or golfing with Dave Houston, lawn bowling with Jim Copeland. Thought about the many years I raced out of this dinner to meet Frank, Dan, Alan, and Kevin for a libation to dilute the taste of the chocolate-infused brandy shot. I thought about listening to poor, starving, wannabe country singers at Commodores in Nashville with Jim Wakefield and Warren Sprouse, or finding the next Goo Goo Cluster with James Rye. I even thought about the time that AT&I were violated, and I mean violated, by a drive-by flashing from UK co-eds during graduation weekend walking down the street at the TOC. And then I realized something extremely important after all this thought. None of this had anything to do with speech and debate. Chris, I know what you're thinking. Come on, Scott, after 2016, after the 2016 we had, how could you possibly not have something to say? A message, a point. Chris, it's true. I wasn't going to go political. It doesn't have to be about whose side you're on. But after the final few months of 2016, I have to address the elephant in the room. It's what all of you are thinking, so I'm just going to say it. After everything that happened in 2016, how in the world can Greg Malice still be a Chicago White Sox fan? Seriously though, it almost seems too easy to frame a message in the light of 2016. I could sit here and simply use facial expressions or some choice gestures to get my feelings across about what appears to be an incredible step backward. But you see, that's not what we do. Words are what we do. Facts are what we do. And the words of our amazing former First Lady, those words should and do matter. A few of you know that a major catalyst for me in my career was when I had the opportunity to teach a student named LeVar for 8 straight semesters of speech class after he was shot at age 12 in the head accidentally by his older brother in the inner city of St. Louis. He arrived in the special ed department at Ankeny High School in Iowa not being able to say a single word. With the help of an amazing speech pathologist, special education instructors, and the 300 speech classmates he had during that time, LeVar walked out of my room 4 years later giving a 10-minute speech for his final. 10 minutes, and I will never forget those 15 words. I love country singer Mindy McCready. She's pretty and sings good. Thank you for listening. That single moment meant that I would never, ever leave speech and debate education as a profession. The political in this speech is going to be a little different than you might imagine. Our understanding that words matter means nothing without a realization of the role we need to play. You see, we are in the business, I believe, of teaching how to advocate. Now more than ever, it seems to me that we need to be in the business of teaching unrelenting and effective advocacy at a depth and breadth that would have seemed unimaginable to those that came before us, but is only a morsel of the capabilities of those that follow. We use this activity to hone the skills of advocacy in thousands of students every year. These skills are extremely powerful. They have the ability to shed light on injustices, make changes for the good, and unite, not divide. Sadly, these skills can also be used in hurtful and very destructive ways. Now, the work that's been done in the activity for nearly 100 years has produced some incredibly skilled advocates. Most of you, in some fashion or another, have been party to some amazing things. Whether it is the work of the Barclay Forum for High Schools and the Center for Civic Engagement, or individual service you guide with your students, or the creation of accessible resources for the activity, creation and development of urban school programming, or exposing our students to the global nature of the activity, or designing, implementing, and carving out your own niche in the educational system for the benefit of students, or your leadership in major organizations that lead to specific and targeted efforts in inclusion by inviting the voices of those that feel voiceless. You've done some amazing things. You have helped us do some great things. The NSDA advocates for inclusion of voice, diversity in thought, and respect and responsibility in our resolve. But I think we owe it to ourselves to ask some very tough questions. These are questions that I find myself asking myself every single day. Especially on days when the organization takes a step backward in its pursuit and mission fulfillment. And yes, those days do happen. So what is our business? I think, at least for me, we are advocates for an educational strategy that we believe in our souls produces students that are the most prepared to positively affect our society after. And at the heart of that is civic engagement and advocacy. Now that was the easy question. Here are the tough ones. Is the activity teaching the right skills of advocacy in the right way and to the entire audience necessary? Are we reinforcing the lessons of advocacy in our own behavior so that we are not harming the very cause we are trying to champion? It is no secret that our profession has taken some serious hits to its credibility over the past few years. Can speech and debate education and what it means to be a speech and debate educator bust out beyond the framework of competition to reach a critical mass that will incite real change? Does winning a current round in debate result in the right use of advocacy tools more often than not? If the game doesn't result in the right skills and lesson, then it is only that, a game. One of the lowest, most heart-wrenching moments for me at this dinner was a few years back when Tim Mahoney told us that as one of the greatest coaches that we all know, he was not certain that he wanted his daughters to participate in this activity. With 90% of our programming occurring in private schools and more urban and suburban public schools, is that enough to hit the mark necessary to get results? The work that has been done in our urban schools is essential in helping students find their voice and to advocate. But are we ignoring an additionally significant area of need when it comes to teaching the ethical standards of advocacy? The audience is not just urban. It's not just suburban. It has to be rural and it has to be global. Are we falling victim to the habit of preaching to the choir instead of actively pursuing additions to the congregation? Nice. I do not have time in this speech nor the audacity to try to impose my answers to these questions on this incredible group of people whose talent, frankly, runs circles around mine. But I will say this. Results take actions, and actions require risk-taking and sacrifice. A room of 50 people won't do it. An NSDA membership of 3,500 schools, when there are 30,000 schools in the country, won't do it. So tonight, James and Ed, I'm stepping out. I'm calling for a National Commission on Advocacy Education. We need every organization with common purpose and resolve, every leader, every coach, every student willing who has something to say to come forth and say it. It won't always be complimentary and it won't always feel good. But as we work tirelessly to increase advocacy for arts education, we need to do the work to ensure that what we are advocating is exactly what we intend and that the unanswered questions are answered. This is especially true for your national organization, but the NSDA is only one element of a network of stakeholders. We have a lot of work to do to clean up our house so that the showing of the property sells. My theme's not a unique theme. I've heard several speeches over the years compel us to action in this area. However, the time for great motivation with little to no post-speech action by me and others is over. In the words of Melissa Wade, we cannot afford to wait. The world around us won't let us wait. Your national organization is going to take the lead in facilitating the comprehensive dialogue about our activity as a tool for teaching advocacy and civic engagement. And I am proud to say, after conversations with James and Ed prior to this evening, that they are on board and they are the first partner in this endeavor, and I hope all others will follow suit. It will be participation that makes a difference. Can't believe you referenced 1941. In 1941, Ted Williams, regarded by most baseball enthusiasts as the greatest hitter ever to play the game, was sitting with a 3.996 batting average with only 2 games left to play in the season. Now, in baseball rules, batting averages are determined out to the 1,000th decimal, which means that Ted Williams, without playing in a single inning of the final 2 games, would become only the 20th person in the history of the game to bat 400. All he had to do was sit out the final doubleheader against the A's, and he would attain this feat. He had already solidified greatness without taking any more risks. I liken this situation to the individuals in this room. You have nothing to prove. You have already attained an amazing batting average. No one would ever question you for sitting on the sidelines and letting other, younger players go to bat. But you see, that's not what Ted Williams did. He stood up to the bat for both games, risking his place in history. He had 6 hits that day and ended the 1941 season with a .406 batting average. He is the last one to hit 400 in the game of baseball. No one has accomplished this feat in the past 75 years since. When asked why he risked it and played the game, he said, "It never even crossed my mind to take a bat out of my hand and not step up to the plate." In the words of Nicole Wanzer-Serrano, debate taught me the skills to advocate for my son's life and to develop a greater understanding of what is possible. The season is not over. There are games left to play.